So, greetings, fellow Godless Rockers. I'm Steve.
And I'm Tally from Monster on Sunday. Joining us here today is Arael Avinu, anchor of Fully DeConverted, badass atheist activist, and fellow Godless Rocker. Thanks, Arael, for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. Did I pronounce your name right?
You know, I don't even know. I'm so caught up in the energy, up in all of this. Like, yeah, I sounded. You didn't call me Robert, so we're good.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure. I've been practicing all morning, but I still wasn't sure. I'm like, do I have it right? All right.
So the future of religion, the follies of religion, the future of the atheist movement, and more on this week's episode of Godless Rockers. Also, we want to thank our patrons for making these shows happen. Please support us on Patreon. Links are in the description below.
All right, guys. So we want to kick off this show with a little game of this or that. Have you played that before?
No.
No. Okay. So basically, we're going to just say two different things, and you have to pick which one you want, and the other one you have to live without forever.
Oh, I love this. Okay. All right, let's do it.
All right, so we came up with some good ones we thought you would enjoy. So here we go. The first this or that question is Nickelback or Maroon 5?
Let's go with I'll keep Nickelback.
What? Just kidding. Do you care to elaborate or no? Let's not talk about it. No, just kidding.
Well, it's because when we do karaoke at my house, when Nickelback has someone singing that, like they've sounded really good. We haven't done any Maroon 5, so I don't know, even though some of their tunes are catchy. So I'm left with that memory, so that's what I'm sticking with. Perfect.
Good answer. All right, number two, this or that question. Here we go. Aaron Ra or Richard Carrier? I know, ridiculous question.
Aaron Ra.
All right. You got to choose why.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. All right. So when it comes to presentation, Aaron Ra is all out there. Everything he says is a soundbite, whereas Richard Carrier is an educator and his stuff is definitely worth it. But Aaron Ra just has that more punchy character in your face. Hey, who the hell is that I'm looking at a video on? So me as a filmmaker, that's why I had to pick that. Oh, sorry, Richard.
It's brutal.
That's okay. We know it's like a really tough question because they're also two different fields of study. So it's
they're also both so good.
That's like asking pizza or spaghetti. They're both amazing.
Yeah.
All right. So number three, this or that question is for a Christmas gift, triple divided popcorn or fruitcake?
Popcorn. Come on now. It's got to be that popcorn.
Really?
I mean.
Well,
yeah.
I would have to agree. But I just remember it being stale as all hell. Both are just equally like, ugh.
Yeah, no, I do love fruitcake. Like I am a big fruitcake fan. I am. And I'm not a popcorn fan. But I do have sons, and we do like to watch movies, and I got a special movie that I want to watch. Have you guys seen the new Netflix movie with Kurt Russell, is it?
Oh, yes, who I thought was Patrick Swayze. That's Patrick Swayze. And we had a big argument about it.
I was like, no, Patrick Swayze's been dead for like, what, 5 years?
Yeah.
The other day.
But, I mean, they're both great people. Yeah, it's Kurt Russell.
And they look nothing alike to me. I mean.
Well, I mean. Oh, they kind of do. I could see. I would be able to switch it in my mind real quick.
All right.
See, he's kind of with me.
All right. So who's the 007 guy and the Jurassic Park guy?
Let's not go there. I think it's
Pierce
all
Brosnan
Pierce Brosnan
and Sam. What's his last name?
Both are Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, I don't know the other guy's last name. I don't even know his name at all.
Oh, okay. Well, Tally thought they were the same person for the longest time.
Yeah, he had to like prove it to me. I was not.
Sam Neill. I'd prove that Sam Neill was not Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, I can see that too. Especially if you don't see, my boys like Jurassic Park too, so we've watched a few of those movies in the past like month or two. So
All right, cool. Well, I don't know that I've ever heard of somebody liking fruitcake, so you're a very unique individual already.
Try to be. There we go.
All right, question number 4 is, it's a toughie, top or bottom?
Top. Top.
Period. No elaboration needed.
There's all kinds of ways you can elaborate that. But yep.
Okay, we will be moving on now. Number 5. This is the final one, by the way. We just do 5 of these of torture. So last one, we were curious what you would think about camera angles. Since you do films and things. So camera angles, Dutch angle or extreme close-up?
Extreme close-up. Yeah.
Why would that be?
Well, if you do it right, it totally capitalizes on a moment. Now, incidentally, I can't do a lot of extreme close-ups because my stuff just isn't that dramatic in the activist world. So, but if you do it right, you have got a story. If not, you've got a parody.
Oh, that's interesting.
What about Dutch angles? Do you have a lot of moments for Dutch angles in the
So now explain to me what a Dutch angle is.
Yeah, because I don't even know what that is. Is that anything like the Dutch thing you do under the blankets?
No, it's not like a Dutch oven.
Well, I really don't know. Steve came up with this question, so I'm just, I don't know.
A Dutch angle is basically you're just off pitch, maybe like 45 degrees or so. And a lot of times it's used in horror movies or in movies where you have a big reveal at the end where you want everybody to feel off kilter. So it's not level. And specifically, it's very not level to the point that the viewer notices it.
Yeah, so that's like a lot of the kind of some of the Avengers movies have done that. The Transformers have done that. I've noticed it in there. And I think it does do a great job of kind of disorienting the audience, but not in a nauseating way. And it kind of draws you in to try to create what's going on in your mind and immerse yourself into that scene. So I do love those techniques. I especially wouldn't even be able to I would be able to do a couple of those in some of my activism. But that's like the nuanced way of storytelling. It's not so obvious. And when you do it, the audience would, if they saw me do it, they'd be like, did he do that right? That's what they would ask of me.
Right. Extreme close-up. Whoa!
Yeah. If I did that, they'd be like, okay, he's trying really hard. We know that. But if I did that Dutch angle there, they'd be like, oh, man, he needs to like tighten up his quality on that. And then I would have to do like a director's cut commentary and be like, listen, people, I meant to do that. But nobody would watch that.
All right. Thank you so much for playing our little game with us. I know it's silly, but it's fun too for us to like delve a little deep into your mind there on some other subjects. So, all right, your show, Fully DeConverted, is super interesting and inspiring to others. Were you always an atheist?
No, I wasn't. I'm fairly new to the atheist community, which makes it very interesting for me as we go along, because all the interviews we do on the show, the people that we have on, I'm learning as we go along. I have a background in interviewing people, so I could bring that skill set over to Fully DeConverted kind of seamlessly while I've been on my journey as well. And other people have joined the team, and we've really made a thing out of this as far as being able to get people on the show, get content, ask people questions, and try to round out at least our corner in the community. So trust me, if you watch my show, you're watching me learn at the same time.
That's really cool. Yeah. We can identify with you about that. When we do episodes, we are having to have had very recently, freshly, research that topic to create it, because it's something we were interested in as well.
Yeah.
And so kind of related to that is what inspired you to become a filmmaker and or create Fully DeConverted? What's your mission?
So the mission of Fully DeConverted is to disenfranchise dogma. A lot of us on the team, and when we founded Fully DeConverted, was, for me specifically, I was in a community, a religious community, where you couldn't ask questions. And when I started to, not knowing it would lead to a deconversion, I started becoming discouraged in that journey. People telling me not to do it, and that whole sort of thing. And because I already did filmmaking for a church, I was a resident videography for a local church that I still live nearby. I just transitioned that skill set over into the activism world, and then went from there. And then right when I basically filmed everything I could locally, somebody introduced me to Raw. And I don't know anything about the atheist community. So I figured, all right, maybe is now the time for me to make that clean break from my religious community and just jump in there and stay over into the activist side of the community, get both sides of the stories. And after I filmed Raw, after I filmed it, not aired it, I came out as deconverted to my local religious community. And then the Raw series was the first thing I launched on Fully DeConverted. Yeah, like that was me becoming no longer a believer and then jumping into this world with you guys.
Wow. How long ago was that?
That was less than a year ago. That was around April timeframe.
Wow. Well, welcome to our world. Welcome to the dark side.
Thank you.
Good for you for finding your way out. That's really tough to do. I think it takes a lot of balls. It's hard. It's scary. Something that it's scary, and your whole life can change really when you really will allow your brain to think about things rationally instead of what you've been told to think about them. It can change your whole life, and it can have, sometimes devastating impacts on your actual life as you know it, between family members or your community you were in. Your whole world can change sometimes.
Yeah. And that's the case. And we have on our show, we have some no-name people along with people that are well-known in the atheist community. And sometimes you kind of think, what am I really going to learn from like a no-name person, somebody that's not famous in the community? But I am so surprised how much I love some of those interviews, because a lot of their stories are just as raw as like ours or anybody in our moment of deconversion, and you're hearing not the professional kind of activism way of presenting this story, because some people are just very sharp, very intelligent, and educated on that. Sometimes it's really refreshing just to hear like a normal person, tell their story, and you're like, damn, I can relate to that so well. And I still feel like I'm there sometimes when I'm listening to those other people, and I'm like, man, me and you, we're the same. Like, that's the way I'm feeling it when I'm on an interview with one of those guys. And don't know where I was going with that, but there we go.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Every time we do these shows, people send us what we like to call love letters. They tell us how our story was relating to them so much, and they just have such a connection, especially with our music. We get little love letters all the time we just got one an hour ago for our song Pain, who somebody said this song is just really spoke to them, kind of thing. And it's great to be able to connect and hear their other stories how did they connect with your story? And then you're like, oh, wow, yeah, we're so similar,
Yeah, and sometimes it's some of those responses where like people just reach out and like they say, hey, Monster on Sunday, like I love what you guys are doing. I love your music, or I've seen one of your podcasts or something like that. And there's always a catalyst, and something like what you guys do, other channels do, Fully DeConverted does, where for someone, it was a pivot moment in their life. And when they reach out and they let you know that's kind of like our affirmation on our own journey here, trying to carve out this space here of, yes, we are actually doing good work. That person, this is how it helped them in that way. And then like it's those love letters, like how you put it, are absolutely great, and they let us know this is worth it.
Yep.
Totally.
That's why I think we all do what we do. Cool. So I noticed there is a film that you've created called Reshaping Reality. Can you elaborate on what that's about, and also mention any others that you might want to mention that you've done?
Yeah, so Reshaping Reality was the documentary. When I stopped being a resident videographer at a church, I produced 3 documentaries as an independent filmmaker. Reshaping Reality is the 3rd installment of that 3-part series. And that's where I come out as a non-believer. I film a Christian minister up in DC, Washington, DC. And after I filmed him, I'm like, you know what? I'm deconverting. I want to include my story in this as well. So if anybody watches Reshaping Reality, it can be found on the Fully DeConverted Facebook page. And it is super dramatic in the beginning and the end. And that super dramatic part is how I chose to dramatize how it felt to deconvert.
Oh, wow.
And then the whole, besides the very beginning and the very ending, is all about the Christian minister that I filmed who turned atheist. And it's all about his story. He's an amazing, kind of funny guy. He has these insights. But most of all, he's real. He was somebody paid to go up and down the East Coast and preach and minister. And I heard him on a podcast one day, hooked up with him really early. We set this thing up, filmed it. And Reshaping Reality is like the best title you can put on it because of how I chose to dramatize it in the beginning and ending. But it was a great capstone to that 3-part series where I was exploring what we believe and why. That was kind of the mantra throughout that 3-part series, what we believe and why. And it did end in my deconversion. And then it led to that documentary was discovered by some other people in the UK who introduced me to Raw. So that, like, for me, that was kind of a life-changing moment for so many reasons.
Interesting. So you were kind of creating that movie while you were deconverting, or was it sort of a recently after that you went back and recreated the experience?
Around the time that I was filming Reshaping Reality, looking back, I could identify that I was deconverting. There was no going back. But at the time of actually in production of it, if you would have asked me then, hey, are you going to deconvert? Are you still a Christian? Are you not a Christian? I would not have known how to answer you. I would have.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, I would have had a lot of things to say. I would have had a lot of questions, a lot of objections, a lot of criticisms, but I had not made that leap yet while in production of it until after I filmed The Christian Minister. After that, and just thinking about it a little more, and then putting on part of my story, I was for sure there was no going back by the time I aired it.
That is such an interesting thing. I wasn't able to watch it. I just watched a little previewy stuff, but I'm definitely going to have to go back and watch that. That sounds super fascinating. Thank you for making that and exposing. That's a big vulnerability to expose there, you know, when you're literally at the time going through this conundrum of what is happening in my own reality, and you're making a film on it. That's amazing. Thank you for doing that. And I can't wait to check out the full length film.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. You mentioned something about the UK. And I did notice that you have just like, I can't pinpoint it, but maybe a slight accent. Are you from America, or what's your story? Where are you from? Stuff like that.
Yeah. So I was born in Texas. And that's about as foreign as I get.
Okay, so well, you don't have much of a Texan accent.
No, I don't. No, so I still
have
I still have family in Texas, and I can tell you that I sound nothing like them. In fact, I sound nothing like most of my family, who are your very typical kind of Southern sounding people. There are some persons in my family I can't understand at all. And then, yeah, that's about it. I moved out of the house when I was 16, joined the military when I was 18, did 12 years in, traveling the whole time. So this is also maybe a reason why I don't sound exactly or like a Southern Texan or something like that.
Because you traveled a lot. Yeah.
And half of those tours were overseas. So it's really hard to find people with accents in the military, like a strong Southern draw, unless they're just in, because you end up just circling the globe with all kinds of people. Like whatever you got, unless you try to hold on to it, like it's probably going to go away, or it's just going to be meshing with everybody else. I don't know. But that's it. Yeah. Born in the States, traveled around, joined the military, and just those travels alone really played a huge role in how to confront religion, at least on the world arena, as you're thinking about it in your mind. Because for some people, as you might know, and as your audience members might know, we all have friends in small towns, right? Or maybe we live in a small town. But it's in those small towns where you find people who cannot even express to you what it's like to live outside of that. And a lot of kind of that reality leads to like some very misinformed perspectives.
You're in a bubble.
And some of that can lead to prejudice that you're just not even aware of, and a lot of my family is like this, and a lot of people that I know are like that. And without ever traveling outside of your own small town, to maybe go to the big city or like a few cities over, the next state over, or everybody in the South thinks that Florida is heaven. So fine, go to Florida, enjoy the beach, something like that. But until you travel, or until you are exposed to something counterculture to what you grew up in, you lack perspective on your own self. And what I think the experience is, when you do experience that counterculture, you all of a sudden move from, let's say, if you're in a very polarizing position, to a more moderate one. And that moderate one being more accepting, more tolerant of people who are different than you, and that sort of thing. Now, that's a rule of thumb. Obviously, there are people who travel that are extremely bigoted, prejudice, and all that sort of thing. So it's not just the fact that we change our location geographically, but also maybe our mindset philosophically, as we assign value to different cultures and persons participating in those different cultures. And that was me going through life as I grew up, experiencing all those differences, and then having to decide myself, is it okay to be Muslim? Is it okay to be Japanese and not really have a major religion that you go by? Is it okay to be on the West Coast and be totally chill about, this whole Christian thing, though claiming conservative roots? Or is all of that bad? Because in the Southern Baptist Church, individual churches shouldn't even affiliate with each other, because you don't know what they're doing wrong, or if they don't have the same holy standards as we, then, you're just going to get bogged down by their sinfulness and all the stuff that they got going on. So you got to make a choice at some point. Either everybody's wrong. No, that's it. It's the fact that everybody's wrong when it comes to, claiming exclusive beliefs.
Yeah, it's that or everybody's right, and that one's not possible.
So if I get you correctly in a way, now you can travel, you could stay to your original roots and your original views, but really once you travel, it's hard to keep the small town kind of mentality that what I knew and what I grew up with is right no matter what. And as you travel, you see different viewpoints that contradict with your own, not just that there are different religions, because when you're talking about East Coast versus West Coast, it's the same religion, but just maybe a different take on it. But when you travel to other countries and travel to other places and see different religions or lack of religion, it makes it a little bit harder to justify the same belief that you had maybe when you haven't been exposed to that much. Is that something that you're saying?
Yeah, and try making friends with all types of different people in those groups, because when you do, that's what makes it really, really hard to kind of go back to your own conservative religious bigotry, let's call it that. Because when you do make friends with people who practice the religion Islam, who may or may not be conservative or liberal about it, all of a sudden you as a conservative Christian now have to imagine their future. And as a conservative Christian imagining a Muslim's future, it goes like this: eternity in hell. That's the imagination. You know, that's the end game right there.
Right.
And now you, instead of confronting this Islamic person's beliefs, you are now forced to confront your own. And what that looks like is saying to God, God, why are you going to hurt this person because, you know, and send that person to hell, or authorize that person to be sent to hell via their own choice, however you want to spin it theologically. You know, now you gotta wrestle with that there, because if you, another human being, can love this other human being and find such commonality with that person and see them love you too, now you realize you would hold on to their hand as long as you could at the moment of going to either heaven or hell until God ripped you guys apart. Like if you're an empathetic person or sympathetic person at all, so that makes you confront the God belief there. Like, holy shit, what do I believe and why?
Yeah, it's a very big moral dilemma.
And why am I more moral than God?
Yeah.
God wants to send this sweet, nice, caring, loving individual to hell because they just don't believe in my same brand of God. You know, they might believe in a different God or no God, either way. Why? How could I see this and have compassion for someone that some supernatural being can't see, doesn't care? Or,
well, it's beyond that. It's beyond doesn't care. It will condemn them to eternity in hellfire.
Yeah.
Whether he cares or not.
Wants to hurt them for
Forever.
this one thing, even though all these other things are good. Like that saying, good without God.
Yeah.
They're good without God, or good with another God. Why does my God want to hurt them, basically?
Yeah.
And have them suffer forever in the most torturous way that is conceivable. It can't even be reality, really. But
yeah, and if I'm to remember back, I don't think I ever reached a point where I questioned, like, why am I more moral than God? In fact, I think that is the farthest thing in Christians' minds when they're confronting issues like these. Because what they're taught is, instead of how to think about the issue, is what to think about the issue.
Right.
So when they're confronted with that, their instinct of what to believe, what to think, kicks in, and it says, well, God's ways are higher than our ways, or God's justice and mercy looks different from his perspective than what it might look like from our perspective. So instead of how, maybe we should give that person a second chance if God is real and all this other stuff, and maybe just not send them to hell in the first place, because who knows why to do that. But it goes to, man, you know, I'll pray for you, or you know, I'm just going to let this one go.
Mysterious ways. He has
mysterious
some plan.
Ways, yeah.
Something's going to work out for the best in whatever way is the best, is what God dictates, even if I might disagree with it completely. God knows best, kind of thing. And who am I to say?
Well, and that's actually a really good point, because with God, it's not about morality. It's about believing authoritarian dictates. God,
that's essentially right.
This is what's going to happen if you believe this, or if you believe that, or if you do this or you do that. And Christians love to talk about morality, but I think over and over again they prove that they don't have it. What they have is authoritarian dictates that they follow that prescribe a morality. But I think real morality is what we can reason out to be moral, what we can reason out to be good or bad. And that can be very different from what's cited in the Bible, for example.
Yeah. Listen, this is one of the most hysterical things. And I wrestled with it. Okay. So I get it. But if you take the Bible, if you take three people, put them next to each other, they're all going to have different opinions on what they should do and why, right? This includes Christians or anybody around the world. Okay. They'll agree on some core things, most likely. And then you just stick the Bible, the philosophy of the Bible, in a fourth person's hand, and what they say is everything. Well, the only thing that you're getting is a different message each time. So the Bible can have its own message, which is no different from John having his message, from Sally having her message, from go to any church. Nobody believes the same thing, or even for the same reason. The Bible is, as a standalone entity, is exactly the same thing. We're all on this spectrum of moral behavior and convictions. The only difference is if we kind of enslave ourselves to a particular dogma, the only difference is we reference that dogma as a standard of behavior rather than us actually practicing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
That's a really interesting way to view it.
Yeah, which is why in small group Christian groups, you'll very often hear them talk about how ashamed they are that they don't meet that standard, right? They're admitting they're all over the place, okay? And this is uncontroversial reality, all right? This is just observing reality and culture. Like that's the way it is. Yeah. So they'll always reference it as a standard, but not as something that they either, one, actually are, two, maybe don't even believe in, three, object to. Like they're all over the place on this stuff.
Right.
But that alone isn't enough to pull them kind of back enough where they could see the big picture. And the big picture is, this just doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, ought we to kind of pause here, reevaluate where it's supposed to fit in the history of humanity and or world religions. And if it looks way too much like everything else, then let's start considering some other options to pursuing path. And in the meantime, put our bigotry on pause.
Good point. I remember when I was young, just soon after I realized I was an atheist, I was actually going through the phone book almost page by page. This is back when there was real phone books. Yes, I'm dating myself now. Okay, real yellow pages. I was going through the yellow pages. And I was actually doing it for this little side business I had created where I had a flyer delivery service to real estate offices. So I was going through like page by page.
Flyer delivery service. That doesn't date you either.
Yeah, I guess you just email that now. Huh? No, this was special. I would know where they were at in the real estate offices, and I would go put them in their little cubbies, a little advertisement. That was different.
I guess we still do
done
that
today.
Yeah, we still do that.
So anyway, thanks though for your support. But my point is, I was like, I'm going to go through A to Z and I'm going to advertise and market to everyone I could think of in this phone book, right? And I got to, I don't remember if it was called religion or Christianity or something. I think it was just religion category. But I ended up, I'm like, oh, it's religion. So there's like some Christian stuff and then it went through DE, like all the different religions in there. Yeah. And even Christianity in its own, I literally forgot almost all about that business and was just infatuated with a quarter of my phone book was taken up with this religion section. And I became completely obsessed with like, why? And I was just like looking through it and it was just Christianity alone. I think I counted like hundreds or something of different denominations, Seventh-day Adventist, this, that, and I was like, what? And this is just in my little town. This was my own, it was Monterey, California. So my little town I was in right there. This isn't like the whole US or anything, just that area. So anyways, this is kind of like what you're talking about. No one can really agree. There's so much. Why can't there be one phone? There should be one phone number straight to God, or like the 1-800, you want God? Here it is. Why is there like thousands? There was thousands of different listings based on categories, and even within Christianity, I think there was hundreds of denominations. So anyways, I'm just saying that was a big flag to me. Like, what? This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and there would be more. There would be more. Hey, let's do a thought experiment really quick. If you're a preacher on stage and you actually spent the year, because it usually takes them a year to recycle their sermons, right? You go through that year and you literally cover everything that you believe. Now, they don't do this, okay? They don't do this. They stick on kind of a strong 5 topics, okay? Mm-hmm. And these topics are usually neutral enough to not piss anybody off.
Yeah. Love-based.
Love money.
The feel-good drugs.
Yeah. Get saved, get baptized, that support the church, and then recycle. And they spread this out over a year. Mm-hmm. But imagine all the different things you have to believe, all the information you have to come across as an educator in theology. Okay. There is so much to cover, and you've heard all kinds of crazy beliefs that people have in Christianity, right? There's kind of the conservative, but then it's on a spectrum. But if the pastor spent that whole year going through every single thing they believed instead of recycling sermons throughout that year, they would have less members in the church, because those members would then find out all the crazy things that particular person believes. And then you would have more factions in Christianity than what we have now. Incidentally, the only reason we have those factions is because there were people who were not afraid to express that in the past 500 years when they split from Roman Catholicism with the Reformation and Protestant movement. Now, the reason why we don't have splits super often is because every time you do that, you have to split up resources. Okay, us human beings, let's just look at all of history. We thrive off of resources. When we don't have those resources, we die, right? When we don't have money, when we don't have a following, we don't have a message, all that stuff. Okay, our whole mission and movement dies. Roman Catholicism, by the way, was doing that 500 years ago, which is why Europe started leaving Roman Catholicism. Their stuff started going down once everybody started becoming educated, and then you have the advent of the printing press. Mass media basically starts evolving, and then people gets their own ideologies. So that did strengthen people having their own voices and gaining a quick following. But again, in order to keep your following, you have to have the most neutral message possible. Okay. And when people actually go through all the crazy
good pop music, it's got to be bland. Bland. You can't get anything really interesting, or you're going to offend a large part of the populace, and they're going to want to go to the other pop star over there that's singing about that, or something.
Religion is the same way. The way you gather a lot of people beneath you is you find a message that works and you don't stray too far from that. That's all. That's marketing 101, no matter what genre or industry you're in.
So are you doing that with Fully DeConverted? And should we do that with Godless Rockers?
I think if you're advertising
tiny niche, do not beer.
If you're advertising anything, the answer is yes, you need to do that. You need to find your audience base, and you need to appeal to that base. And if like you guys as rockers are appealing to other people who like rock music, and then whatever your nuanced message is to that, that's what you capitalize off of, right? Over at Fully DeConverted, we're still kind of shifting a little bit. But what we're committed to right now is just getting anybody and everybody on the show and just asking questions. I don't think any of us really have an agenda as far as what we think we should be telling, even if it's promoting atheism. We don't even promote atheism. We promote the discussion. And I think our audience base recognizes that, and we enjoy that right now. So we're cool with that. And then the only other thing that we bring to the table is the filmmaking. So the Arael series and the Richard Carey series that we're launching this week. That's the only other thing. And that's kind of the artistic side. And that's something that I specialize in. And that's still promoting somebody else's message for discourse. We're not really injecting our own selves into that, other than just the production.
Hey, thank you for mentioning that. That was going to be my next question, but since you just, pushed that button, Richard Carey series, you have created that. I saw a little bit of it online, and we talked a little before the show. This is so exciting. Can you please tell us more about this series and what's going on with that, and what should people expect?
Okay, so Richard Carey is probably a name that we all know or have heard of. And if you haven't, and if you haven't, Richard Carey is basically an educator. He's strong in history and philosophy, and we crowdfunded a series. We raised about $2,000, and we flew him out here, and we filmed a series. Awesome. And in this series, we talk on topics such as ancient science and technology, positive atheism, the historicity of Jesus, counter apologetics, the political divide, and there is hours worth of content here. So we're splitting it up in episodes, and the first episode airs tomorrow on Fully DeConverted's YouTube channel. And we'll be putting out little snippets here and there. There will be some content that is paid for. We filmed a lecture series with him, and we filmed like a sit-down interview style with him. So the sit-down interview, that's going to be free and available to the public. And then the lecture side of the series, where it's just him being technical. So if somebody wants to follow on that hard, that's most likely going to be our paid content. So it's going to be supported financially, whether we haven't decided where we're going to put that yet. But moving on with that, the great thing about this series is instead of somebody else just putting up or rehashing random videos of Richard Carrier at some conference, this is what Fully DeConverted wants to be known for. It's bringing art and some meaningful content other than just a message to our community, the secular community, the activist community, to act as a staple of part of our culture.
And that makes me feel so happy. I really appreciate that. Well, okay, I've been in the movement a long time, like 20 plus years. And back in the day, it was just a bunch of old folks really sitting around in a room chatting, arguing about, we hate religion. Rah! That's what it was. And I was young. I was like 19 going, this sucks. Well, now today in the last 10 years, there's been this era of like conferences, speakers, a lot of the, super, what do you call it?
Intellectuals.
I was going to say the smart people. The intellectual side have been just dominating. They've got books and there's biologists. And well, I think there's just this whole realm of people like you, filmmakers, people like us, musicians, artists who may paint, you name it. I think there's just like a giant untapped area there of people who haven't really fully come out or know how to show this side of themselves, being an atheist and also being artistic. And I see this great future for the atheist movement where we can like integrate both. Let's bring the knowledge, but bring the fun and the creativity and the love. And like, just there's something about art that just really helps that intellectual message come through so much stronger and more powerful. And I feel like it could explode if the two could come together, right? So
and
thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, if it's not fun, nobody's going to want to participate unless they're going through this and struggling somehow. They're venting anger, or they are super intellectual and they can actually, it has been them to prop us up within the last decade, right?
Yes.
But now we do need to make it fun. And that's what we at Fully DeConverted want to do. Of course, we do the podcasting because that's interesting and it helps us grow. But we want, I want it to be fun. If it's not fun, trust me, I ain't sticking around. I'm not gonna, well, what am I do until I'm 50 and just, just talk to people forever? No, man, you guys play music and do your thing, and you have that ability to express yourself and connect with people in that way. And that's probably fun for you guys. Absolutely. It's not fun. And as the atheist community already says, it's the same arguments over and over. We are ready and popular enough now as a community with people coming into it, that now it's time to start actually expressing ourselves in the fun, meaningful ways. And just like hip hop did a couple of decades ago, where there's a message attached to a community and they're relating to other people in their community. And then people outside of their community can look in and be like, you know what, that's real.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we want that now. And that's what doing series is about.
That's so awesome.
I think it's a good point. And it's kind of a point that our last guest, Thomas Westbrook, talked about a little bit, that as far as the intellectual battle, the atheism and secularism and, skeptical community has been kicking ass there for a long time. But what we need to win is the emotional battle as well, because that's really what religion, that's all it's ever had. And that's its stranglehold, the triumph over death. This is the fear that we have that we're going to die one day and we're not going to be able to remedy that. Well, how do you overcome that as a secular community? You've got to really pull at some heartstrings. There is so many other things.
That. Art can do that.
Yeah. The emotional battle, the problem we have is that the religions get to cheat and we don't.
Yeah, well, they certainly capitalized on it. You know, it wasn't always that way with religion. I mean, religion wasn't always this art powerhouse or this storytelling powerhouse. That came along, or at least it got a great big boost when the Roman Catholic Church decided, you know what, we're kind of we're not necessarily on the winning team here, even though we're kind of dominant. Like, we probably have a short-lived future at some point. So at the point where, you know, you get Michelangelo making these paintings, and then all these other famous artists that the Roman Catholic Church started pouring money into, where you had these kings, nobles, princes decorating themselves up, the Roman Catholic Church realized, you know what, we need this as well. We need that presentation. And then you get another 1,000 years.
So powerful. Yeah,
of the Roman Catholic Church being able to have this powerful story or narrative that they give to the people. That's what captures our hearts. That's what is able to kind of mass everybody together and get us involved. And you get this cult following, right? Same thing with rock music. Same thing with your favorite filmmaker. Same thing with all of this. You know, the atheist community now, the best we have is banging our heads on the walls every time we hear a dumb argument. You know, and when we do that, we look kind of like somebody banging their head on a wall. It's not that attractive, you know. So people,
we look like jerks who don't have any fun, and we're just stuffy old atheists, you know, saying you Christians are idiots or whatever.
That's
happening online.
That's fun too.
It is fun too.
Let's not pretend that's not fun.
Sometimes it's okay. People, might think we're assholes and we're like, haha. But at the same time, we have all the other emotions. We can show all these other sides of ourselves. We're humans just like any other human. They don't have some sort of monopoly on being human and having emotions and feeling all kinds of things and having amazing experiences that we can also describe in our own viewpoint, from our own viewpoint.
Yeah. So now I think our task is how to, number one, identify that meaningful narrative within us or within our movement or vision or whatever. And then how to convey that same vision outwardly in a meaningful sense to other people, whether they're religious or fellow secular persons or not. And that's our task now as a community is learning how to do that and then becoming effective at doing it. Because right now we're all just a bunch of people bumping into each other trying to figure it out still.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it hasn't been done. I say that, you know, like Carl Sagan and Richard Dawkins and things like there's a lot of very emotional content about our mortality and the beauty of this life, but I don't think it's enough. I think that there are so many other ways that we can go at it, from music, from videography, from poetry, from art, that haven't been done. Mostly what we've received to this point has been scientific and intellectual, and it is emotional too. But I think there's way more ground to be broken there. To connect with people. You
know, remember I was talking about the Yellow Pages thing, where like a quarter of my book was all these religious denominations. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to create this band Monster on Sunday is because I was looking for some kind of atheist art. I was looking for atheist musicians and music in particular. I wanted to hear the kinds of ideas I was thinking expressed musically, and I couldn't really find much of any of it. There really wasn't a lot at that time. And I did go to Sirius Satellite Radio, and I found that they have, under all their music genres, they have the Christian genre, and there was like 50 different genres of Christian music, like Christian rock, Christian heavy metal, Christian rap, Christian pop, Christian holiday, you name it. There was like 50 different things, and I'm like, I don't see either a single other religion on here or anything about like a single atheist genre or even single channel. What if we could, it's one of my goals. I want to make just an atheist channel where, you know, if you're listening to that channel, you will not be subjected to anybody talking about God this, God that, because it's everywhere, even in our regular radio already. Why don't we have a single channel?
I think, as I hear you speaking through that, and I know a lot of people, by the way, would agree with you. I've heard this, that they want their own atheist kind of channels, no matter what they're talking about, to be able to go to. But I I think that the reason why we don't have those things is because in our society up to this point, it's lacked utility. So you say like atheist channel, but really the way we've kind of defined that in our culture right now is just not religious. So you have secular music, and then you have like gospel music. You know, if you're a Christian, you know that if it's not Christian music, it's secular music. But you're talking about something more nuanced. You're talking about something with that falls only under the umbrella of like the atheist movement, or you know, the strictly secular movement. But I just don't think our culture or society's found the utility for that yet. We don't have that kind of demand. It's emerging. That much is obvious, especially with politics developing, which I'm very excited to see, though I don't know much about. I'm excited to see that. But yeah, I think utility is kind of maybe the key thing we're looking for in the next few years.
Totally agree. You mentioned politics, and we don't generally go there much with the show, but I love your shirt. Can you please show it off for our audience?
Yeah. Let me see if I can get up here a little bit.
Makes sense. Great again. What does it say after?
Skip church.
Skip church.
Make Sundays great again. Skip church. So
I love it.
Yeah. The story behind the shirt is right after I filmed Aaron Raw, he invited me to the American Atheist convention, the last one that just happened. Well, half a year ago. And I said, okay, sure, I'll think about it. I didn't know anything about the atheist community. And then 2 days before it actually happened, I just bought a ticket and went there, just check it out. And it was great. It was another life-changing kind of moment for me. This was just a few weeks after I filmed Aaron. I still hadn't produced the series yet. And, you know, I wanted to buy a shirt, and I came up and I told the lady, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I want this shirt because it's too like, in your face. And I'm not sure if I'm not about that. You know, I don't really want to tell people to make Sunday great again, skip church. Cause after all, that's what they like. Right. And this is like, I don't know if people knew that there. I'm sure somebody did, but the person that's selling all these shirts, they had the biggest booth. She leaned over to me and she's like, honey, it's okay. It's not a big deal. I'm Christian.
What?
Yeah. She was a Christian vendor at the American Atheist.
Fine.
Yeah, and they were selling like the biggest table of shirts. And these are nice, by the way. They're not cheap shirts. They feel really good. And I just looked at her, I'm like, I'll take the one in blue.
Brilliant.
If you don't mind, then I don't mind.
Brilliant marketing right there.
I'm like, I
see an opportunity. I'm going to sell these shirts.
I'm going to have to use that one next time, selling Moms on Sunday shirts at our next convention. It's okay. I'm religious. Just buy
it. Yeah. Sorry, I'm still recovering from a bit of a cold.
Yeah, he's been really sick, so I've been trying to
coughing throughout the show.
Yeah, I've been trying to take most of this interview just because I know he's pretty sick. You want to show out your shirt?
Yes.
Rethinking
sure, why not?
What?
Rethinking heathen.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
So there's a satanic shirt.
I'm going for something totally non-offensive there too, as well. Obviously.
We're kind of known for our shirts, and I just got this one literally yesterday. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, we've been working on a song that says basically that. For a while, and maybe it'll make it onto the album.
All right. Do we have anything here you want to do? Because I think we only have one more question. I kind of feel like you already answered our last question. So I'll just
give a shout out to our viewers now. If you have a question, we are looking on our YouTube comments. So if you have one, now's the time to pose it. We're about to wrap this up otherwise.
So yeah, the last question we have for you, you kind of touched on a lot of things regarding this, sort of based more in the world and stuff, but I don't know if you want to talk a little more specifically. We are really excited to see what's in store. What do you see for the future of Fully DeConverted? And did I see something about a new host or a new, I'm not sure, maybe it was Google stuff.
Yeah.
But what's for the future?
So the future of Fully DeConverted is we want to remain flexible and pliable. We don't want to get stuck down in our own kind of dogma, if you will. So me and other people who help lead Fully DeConverted, we're very vocal about we'll change up what Fully DeConverted is in response to our audience. So one thing we're doing right now is hosting Sunday kind of member chats. It's just a discussion. Kind of on the week, they're more like directed, like how this kind of podcast is right here, you know, where you get somebody in, you uncover what they're going through and all that other stuff. On Sundays, it's just kind of what's been going on throughout the week. What are some hot topics right now? Let's talk about this. The whole John Chow thing that got a lot of attention. So we covered some of that. Something recent is how am I forgetting? Neil deGrasse Tyson. So these are things that we can talk about and bring into our own communities, and discuss how it's relevant and that sort of thing, as well as like giving to the church. A lot of churches right now at this time of year go into their giving sermon series. This is where they ask for money, like the most money they're going to ask for the whole year. A lot of them hold it for this time of year.
Makes sense.
Like any business.
Yeah. So the other officers with Fully DeConverted were hosting that on Sunday. So we're changing and evolving with that. Something I personally want to see with Fully DeConverted is to be a filmmaking platform as well, to be able to tell a story, but also host meaningful, great, relevant content and marry those together. Now, I say all that, it's a huge demand on everybody, right? All of us involved in activism, like you can only do so much. So a lot of what people need is financial support from people who feel like they benefit from that content, whether it's people listening to your music or other people who think filmmaking is cool and they like to hear the story told that way, or through song, or somebody's an intellectual and they would like to support that person. So financial support goes a long way in helping people free up time, because time, believe it or not, is people's most valuable commodity. And if you can get more of that, you can produce more or better work. So wherever we go, if we had more time and more opportunity to reinvest back into that, that's what all of us on the Fully DeConverted team are trying to do right now and want to do.
Yeah. We're with you on that.
Yeah. I guess that's us in a nutshell. In whatever way we do it, we're trying to disenfranchise dogma.
Okay.
Love it.
Awesome.
Okay.
When do the
Well, we don't have any questions from the comments. So do you have any questions for us before we take off here?
A couple. I'll try to make them quick. Number one, do you karaoke?
Yes.
We do, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right here. Here's my mic, and I just got it. I just got a brand new cordless. Where can I get this in?
There we go.
There it is.
Beta cordless, amazing mic. I've wanted one of these for 20 years. I finally got it literally just a few weeks ago. But yeah, this is what we do karaoke on. And
yeah, nice.
we pretty much just YouTube it, and we have a lot of
We also
fun.
even karaoke to practice our own songs.
Yeah, our own songs also on karaoke for me to keep my voice in shape.
That is totally awesome. I don't know a lot of singers, but I'm so glad to hear that you guys like actually karaoke and that sort of thing.
Actually, when we met, I was a karaoke DJ. I DJed karaoke for about 6 years when I met him.
Yeah, I helped
during
her set
that
up
time, he
shows
would help me sometimes.
And of course I would sing too.
Yep.
That is awesome. All right. Second question. And don't
Have
lie.
you been writing these down? It's like a list.
Right. Let's say you're doing like a karaoke.
The top or bottom. Don't give me that. Don't put me on the spot. No,
nobody wanted to answer that question, but you guys threw it up anyways. Actually,
everybody
that's
answers it anyway.
Reluctantly, but laughingly, so it's good.
So let's say you got a karaoke party going on and somebody gets up and like they kind of suck. What do you do? Do you take over the mic or do you dance background dancer?
Well, as a DJ and also musician, I also played in band, so I knew a mixing board really well. So that end of things, I would put them just slightly under the music so that it wasn't excruciating for everybody, but yet it was they could tell, but it wasn't blasting in their faces. I make sure the music's slightly over the top of their voice. And then beyond that, if they, you know, obviously all the crowd is like, oh, in the whole place, you can just see it. So whenever they would look over at me, I would be like, good job, you can do it, keep going. Just because sometimes, most of the time, if that's happening, it's their first of maybe 2 or 3 times ever doing it, if not the first time. And they just need the encouragement to start singing better, because anxiety comes out in the voice. And usually when they're like that, they're just a brand newbie. Sometimes there's the horrible ones that think they're amazing and walk around all confident and blast in everyone's faces. But most of the time they're
that's usually alcohol.
They just most of the time they need some encouragement or some booze.
Yeah. And a lot of they
probably did the booze to the point where they don't know where they are anymore in pitch. Yeah. And they're new. And you don't want to totally
you should always support, but also
what if you had like a buzzer?
Make it comfortable enough for the people in the audience. No.
Well, that would be a totally different type of show. Now you're going on to America's Got Talent or something. This is just karaoke at a bar.
We're not turning around for you. It's the voice.
New idea for the next karaoke bar. They have 3 X's. If anybody that's singing karaoke, if it gets up to 3 X's, that person has to go down. That's the next karaoke bar idea.
That is a great idea. I wish I would have thought of it.
But it brings a totally different type of person.
Oh, that's true. You're going to bring in all the bad singers to try to compete.
No, because
for the best?
Well, they have to actually think they're good, because people who sing karaoke don't necessarily think they're good. They're just getting up because their friends talk them into it. They're having some drinks. They want to have some fun. You don't really want to like necessarily ruin that for those people, because it's an event. It's something they may only do once in their lives. But if they actually think they're good and you're like judging them, well, that's a totally different type of person. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to
put them last on the list and just keep putting people before them. Be like, there's still some people before you if they ask when they're up next.
Yeah. You know,
I just only sing once an hour or 2.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Okay. Yeah, we like doing karaoke parties. We do it in our homes. We don't go to the bars and that sort of thing. So when we get into it, we get into it. And we usually like go Facebook Live when we do it too. So we're just having a blast and having fun.
Oh my God, we should join you with the Facebook Live. Can you do the double videos? Because we could do multi-karaoke's. Or where are you?
I don't know. Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah, about as far away as you can get.
Never mind. I was like, maybe we can come hang out.
Oh yeah, you know who does live close to here is Kyle Curtis from the Non Sequitur Show. Have you heard of that? Yeah, so he lives probably 2.5 maybe 3 hours away from me, which is like totally a doable trip, like a day trip or something like that. So one of these days you might see Kyle and I doing some karaoke. Or
all right, I'm going to be tuning in now and commenting. Vocal comments.
Whether she turns around or not, that's gonna be the comment.
All right, so thanks again, Arael, for being a part of the show.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming on so much. And guys out there, our fellow Godless Rockers, please, if you want to learn more or support his activism and this show, please check out the website, www.fullydeconverted.com. Also, we have a bunch of links for all of their efforts. All of the things we talked about, like the film and the Facebook and all these things, are all links right in the comment box, or the description box down below. So please go check those out and support him and his efforts there.
Thank you.
Yes. Please do. And we also have music, merch, and more promo going on in our online store at monsteronsunday.com/store. Simply click the link in the description box below and check it out now. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time,
we're Monster on Sunday! That was a good one. Thank you. Thanks for joining us on Godless Rockers.